welcome back. It has been a hot minute, and I do apologize for that, but let's dip our toes back in. Let's get to platinum that. And today I figured it's been a while since I've done my account. My account was the very first episode in this series, and we've done about 26, 27 of these episodes. So I've done a lot of progress in that time. So I figured we would dive in and have a look at my account again and the about 100 platinums that I've had since that first video. So let's dive in, shall we? Okay, so as you can see with my list, I've got quite a few platinums. I think I've got about 104 platinums since the very first episode of Platinum That, which is insane given that it's been less than a year. I need to see sunlight ASAP. But let's get into the list. As you can see, my most recent game here is Resident Evil 4's remake. I got that this morning. I've played through the first few chapters, can confirm it's fantastic. But let's get into the list. So the first game on here is 1111 Memories Retold, which is a very good World War I sort of story-driven walking sim with a watercolor painting sort of aesthetic to it. It was actually a really good game. Elijah Wood is one of the voice actors for it. Really enjoyed this one. Can highly recommend it. 35mm is next. This is one where I believe I saw Mert KK, who is another trophy YouTuber, highly recommended this game in one of her videos, so I gave it a try and it was okay. It's another walking sim. It's set in post-apocalyptic Russia. You are trying to get back to your house to relive memories of your family from before the apocalypse. It was weird. I liked it. I liked it enough to do In Rays of Light, which you'll see below, which is the prequel to this game. But I don't think I would recommend 35mm. It didn't really offer anything. It was very basic, but it was okay. It's 50-50. It's like a 5 out of 10. We then get the Plague Tale games here with Innocence and Requiem. I love Plague Tale Innocence. I think I like it more than Requiem purely because it felt, I mean, I'm talking about rat superpowers, but it felt more grounded to me. Like, I like Requiem quite a bit. I like the first half of Requiem a lot more than The Island, and I think I might be the only person who can say that. A lot of other people adore The Island and don't really like the first part of the game, but I sort of feel like it kind of went very over the top once you got to The Island, and that kind of lost me a bit. But the first part of the game is brilliant. A Shortcut Hike is next. That you play as a bird on an island. It's a collectathon. The goal of the game is to get from your house to the top of a mountain by hiking. You'll meet a lot of quirky animal characters on the way. It's a collectathon. It only took a couple hours, but I did really enjoy this one as well. This was a very chill one that you could put on while listening to a podcast about platinum trophies. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We then have A Tale of Paper, which is another sort of, I guess you would call easy peasy game. It only took, you could do this game in like an hour or two, I imagine. What appealed to me about A Tale of Paper is I love Little Nightmares. I love the way that game plays, and this is the closest I've found to another game that plays like Little Nightmares. And I adored it. You play as a little paper man who is trying to get off Earth, essentially. And it was brilliant. I highly recommend this one as a little palate cleanser between your stuff. One thing you'll see with my account is I've gone all in on indies and horror games. Not easy peasies. You won't see many 5-minute platinums on here. I can only really think of 2 games I would call easy peasies that I've played since the last video, which we'll see pretty soon. But there is a lot of shorter sort of 3-4 hour games that I would highly recommend and will do once we get to them in the video. We then have Abzu here. You're a diver. You are going through different underwater environments. This is another fantastic little one. Doesn't have a platinum, which is another thing I've been working on. Get those 100%. The platinum isn't everything, and I've been really enjoying that mentality as well. But Abzu was good. I enjoyed the interactions. The trophy where you had to ride like a whale and get an orb in the air sucked, but the rest of the game was fantastic. Adam's Venture Origins. I see this in literally every other Platinum That video we do. I always have to go, oh, this is bad Uncharted. I figured it was less than $1 on sale Australian, so I figured, stuff it, I'll pick it up and play it in a day. It can't be that bad, can it? It can be. It can be that bad. Don't play this. This is awful. Moving on. We then have Alien Isolation, one of my favorite games of all time. I adore Alien Isolation. I adore that universe in general, as you can see with Fireteam just below as well. Highly, highly recommend. The no death trophy can suck, but you can sort of save scum it, which does make life a lot easier. I remember one of the trophies didn't pop for me, and I had to run through the game a second time, hence the 3 days, as opposed to, I feel like I could probably get that platinum in like 8 hours if it didn't bug on me, because I've done it a few times now. I think I've done that platinum 3 times. Highly, highly recommend this one. And I highly recommend Alien Fireteam Elite as well. This is one that I didn't have finished when we did the first episode. I've gone back and cleaned it up with my very good friends. This was a brilliant game. I even did a little video on the game. It's Left 4 Dead, but in the Alien universe. It's a little bit janky, but with 2 other people, it's enjoyable. You've got to play every mission quite a few times, because in that sort of game genre's way of doing things, difficulties don't stack, which kind of sucks, but it was a blast, and I highly recommend it. I think when we came back, we did it in like a week. Shout out to Beautiful Torment and Vigilant Claro from the Platinum Standard Discord, who gave us a lot of tips on how to make life very, very easy. We then have Amnesia Collection. This is, of course, Amnesia Machine for Pigs, and Christine, or whatever the weird spin-off DLC is. These are okay. I enjoyed them. Then a DLC trophy came out of left field, and I haven't gone back to do that one yet. I probably should. I'm just very lazy. We then have Among the Sleep. I did this for the Spooky ABC competition in the Platinum Standard Discord, which I highly recommend joining. It is one of the best communities for trophy hunters that I've ever personally seen. I'm biased, but Among the Sleep was good. You play as a baby that is trying to work out what happened to your mum. You've got a teddy bear. It's kind of a horror, kind of trippy. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Apex twice. This is the first of only a few stacks so far on this list. I am thinking, should I do stack? Should I not? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But we've got Apex Legends here. I adore Apex. This is one of my favorite shooters I've ever played. Love playing this with mates. I probably should play it again at some point. As you can see, I did the PS4 version 2 years ago now. Wow, time goes by so fast. And the PS5 version, I did in 2 months. The reason it took that long, the rest of the trophies I got in like a week, was the Golden Weapon trophy, which you have to have a golden weapon with all attachments equipped, was bugged, and it was bugged for an entire season. So I had to wait for that season to be fixed. Then it rolled out and I patched it. I got the trophy on the patch the day that it came out. Feels very good. We then have Ark Survival Evolved. It's open world MMO survival thing on an island far away from me. It's pretty trash, not gonna lie. It runs like garbage on PlayStation, and the DLC sucked. I don't recommend that. You can use console commands for it though, so easy, ultra rare in theory. Ashen is next. This is an artistic sort of Dark Soulsy sort of game. I like Ashen. I don't like Ashen's DLC, which is where I'm at and where I've been at since I put that game down in September 2021. One day I will go back, but it is not this day. We then get into my army of Assassin's Creeds here with Brotherhood, Freedom Cry, 2, 3, Black Flag. I finally finished Black Flag. Whoop, whoop. Liberation, Odyssey, Origins, Rogue, Syndicate, Unity, and Valhalla. The only one I've not completed there is, of course, Valhalla. I do have the Ragnarok DLC and the Forgotten Saga ready to go. I probably will clean them up this year. One of my goals is to get back to 90% completion. I'm currently at 86.66% completion, so I'm getting there. I started the year at like 80%, so I've gone up like 6% through cleanup. There's just a lot of DLC in Valhalla, and I need to just go back and smash it out in bulk. And then, of course, the only other mainline Assassin's Creed I am missing is Revelations, which I should just go and do. I don't know why I haven't done that one yet. And then I would like to get the Chronicles to complete the series. We then have Astro's Playroom 100%. This was my first PlayStation 5. I don't know why I'm pointing to the PlayStation 5. You can't see it, but it was my first PlayStation 5 Platinum, like a lot of people, I imagine. We then have Awakening of Cthulhu. This was a very, very short side-scrolling horror game. You will learn looking at my list. I love indie horror. It is one of my favorite messes that you'll ever find. And this was okay. No, it wasn't. It was pretty trash. This was trash. Yeah, no, this was bad. You could probably finish it in even less time if you followed a guide, I imagine. Axiom Verge 2, this was free on Plus in January. This is a Metroidvania that is obviously the sequel to a very, very good Metroidvania in the first game, which I would love to get my hands on at some point. I was disappointed in Axiom Verge 2. Firstly, it was broken on PlayStation 5, hence why I did the PS4 version, because I was not going to keep playing the game until a trophy decided to randomly pop at will. Yeah, I don't know. The art style looked worse than the first game. The enemies were kind of obnoxious. And I found navigating the world very confusing, which a Metroidvania should feel like there's a lot of secrets and you've got to do a lot of exploring. I love that. It's brilliant in Hollow Knight, for example. But here, with the graphics, it felt hard to find things, and that's not good. Also, the game crashed, and I lost so much progress doing cleanup over and over and over again. Back 4 Blood is next. Speaking of a game that I have a love-hate relationship with, I would love to love Back 4 Blood. I hate Back 4 Blood. It's like you take Left 4 Dead and then you add astrophysics for no reason. It's the perfect way to take a really good fun formula and overcomplicate it to buggery. Also, the trophies don't pop for me, so I might have a bias for hatred towards that. I did the first act on Nightmare 8 times before the trophy popped, and I'm at like 6 or 7 on Act 2, and it still hasn't popped for me. You can use a website to find the exact mission that isn't working for you, because the website tracks the outfits that are tied to the difficulties and stuff. So I know what mission isn't unlocking for me, but I can't get to that mission without playing like half the campaign to get there. So you've just got to do that over and over and over again and hope it pops for you. And yes, it's not because I went down and took an AI to finish the level. I've made sure that none of that is the issue. I was playing the day that a patch came out in December, and I think that is what actually caused the issue. I want to get this cleaned up. This is one I definitely want to go back to soon. I've heard the last DLC is very, very hard, so I'm looking forward to that. It's a good game, it's fun, but the mechanics and some of the systems in place are needlessly overcomplicated and kind of annoying. Like, does anyone actually know how healing and trauma works in this game? Or do we kind of just pray that the blue health bar doesn't go down? We then have Arkham Asylum here. I finally polished this off thanks to the help of a good friend of mine. We finally got this done after a lot of alcohol and tears. We then have both Telltale Batman games. These are okay. I'm not a big... Well, I say that I'm not a big walking sim fan. I'm not a big Telltale style walking sim fan. I like them to an extent. You'll see ones like Vanishing of Ethan Carter later on. But in terms of Telltale, I just find them kind of wooden and stiff. And these are two really good examples where I just don't remember anything. Like, I kind of remember the first game. Enemy Within, Batman's in it, I know that. That's about the extent of it. Battlefield 5 is here next. This was free on Plus in 2021, so I polished it off that month. I actually like this game. I think that Battlefield 1 is a so much better game. And I'm kind of tempted to do 2046. I know I have a couple good friends of mine that are wanting to run that through. So maybe I'll tag in on that one at some point. We got the BioShocks next. As you can see, BioShock 2 is the only one with DLC I have not done because I'm lazy. It's the easiest DLC of all 3 games, and it's the one I have not done, so I have issues. Black Death, A Tragic Dirge. This is the only truly easy peasy game I would say I have on my list. It's trash. The description sold it as a walking sim in a medieval village that has the Black Plague. It was $1, so I was like, hell yeah, that sounds great. I love indie horror and walking sims and stuff. Let's do it. Loaded the game up, instantly popped a trophy, and then realized all it was you walked around a house and picked notes up. It's trash, don't play this. Black Mirror is next. It's trash, don't play this. This is another spooky whodunit sort of walking sim with probably the worst loading screens and movement I've ever seen in a game. On the PS5, the loading screens were like 2 minutes long, which makes XCOM 2 look fast, so that's terrifying. And the walking was really, really floaty. Like, I can't place how it was so bouncy and sluggish at the same time. It doesn't make sense. Blair Witch is next, another walking sim horror game that I don't recommend. Blooper Team. Sometimes they make good games. This is not one of, well, do they? Sometimes they make games. This is a bad example of games that they make. This is you walk through a forest and walk through a forest, and then the forest is dark because we're at nighttime, but we're gonna walk through it. And then you hold a dog for like 15 minutes in real time and slowly walk forwards. And the trophies are kind of really finicky. Some of those endings are really, really finicky. You got to do things like never flash one of the enemies with your flashlight, which is easier said than done sometimes, because that essentially means if you don't use your flashlight, you're just running through like pitch black. It was okay. I don't recommend it though. It definitely took me far too many playthroughs to get one of the trophies to pop. Bloodborne is next. I finally cleaned it up. I did it. Are you proud of me? We got there in the end. I sat down. I decided I needed to polish this off, be good for my completion rate. So I smashed through like the entire thing in like 2 days. Because it's just such an amazing fun platinum. Highly recommend this one, of course, but I'm sure you all already have this platinum trophy. We then have Borderlands 3. I went back and cleaned up the DLC finally. It can't recommend Director's Cut. That cost me $30 Australian for like 2 side quests and a really shite battle royale. Yeah, can't recommend that one. Borderlands, the pre-sequel, I had a trophy glitch on me in the DLC, which means I have to do an entire playthrough again, which, let's be real, is not happening. I will get back to this at some point, but it is so low on the priority list. Brother of Tale of Two Sons, this is another interesting sort of walking sim. You control 2 brothers at once. Each is controlled by a different analog stick as they go on a journey to get their father medicine, I think. It was okay. It was short. You could definitely do this in like 3-4 hours. As you can see, PSMP Plus's guide here suggests. I'd recommend this. It's free on PS Plus Extra, and it was quite a lot of fun. Bugsnax is next. Another game that I adore. You explore an island, picking up different food animals, and then the game throws a 180 and is wacky and wild for a bit. It's quite good. I highly recommend. Bulletstorm, smash this out in 2021 as well. This is one of those weird first-person shooters that has very edgy humor that you probably couldn't put in a game these days, but the mechanics themselves are quite a lot of fun, and I would at least somewhat recommend this one. We then have Burly Men at Sea here. This was a indie game that I honestly can't recommend at all. Burnout Paradise, I went back, I cleaned this up. It was a lot of fun as well. This is one of those games that has, in my opinion, one of the best soundtracks in a game of all time. Very fast, very fun. The only thing I will say is the game doesn't really let you fast travel at all, and sometimes getting around the map to actually get to events and collectibles can be really tedious. Like, you might do a race, go all the way to one side of the map, and then need to drive all the way back to do another race. Or if you fail the first race, you got to do the same thing. You got to drive back to that start to do it again, and that becomes very, very tedious after a while. And then we get into the seas. Alrighty, and moving into the seas, we have Call of Cthulhu, which was one of two games that came out from Lovecraft about the same time. I like this one quite a bit. It's definitely got buggy trophies. Do know that those exist. I had to play an extra half of the game just to get one trophy, which was not fun. But the game itself's decent. It's a whodunit. You're a detective. You go to an island to work out a murder case that becomes very tentacly, and it's decent. We then move into my Call of Duties, which is probably the cleanup I'm most proud of at the moment. I've been having a blast with these. I haven't touched Advanced Warfare. This is entirely just Exo Zombies I have left, which I'm not gonna do anytime soon. Let's be real, I don't enjoy Exo Zombies. I have been cleaning up a bit of Black Ops 4 though. I've been slowly chipping away at the multiplayer. I got a lot of Ancient Evil done recently, so I only have Blood of the Dead and Alpha Omega left for Easter eggs, which is really, really cool to finally go through some of those. Voyage of Despair, it lives up to its name. We then have Cold War, which I did a video of in October or September or whenever I did that video. Boy, I need to start making videos and be consistent more. I do apologize. But I got the 100% and it feels good. Black Ops 3 I've been chipping away at as well. It pretty much just have zombies left and grinding level weapons, which is not fun, but it's getting there. I then got the 100% in Ghost. This is one I did very recently. Shout out to Kirito. If you somehow see this, you're a legend for helping me through all the DLC. A lot of aliens were killed in the making of that one. We then have Infinite Warfare, which is the one I'm currently more focused on. I only have Zombies in Spaceland and Attack of the Radioactive Things Easter eggs left, and then once I have the director's cut, I'm just going to go through and like burn through the miscellaneous stuff very easily. For those who don't know, in the Zombies in Infinite Warfare, when you beat all of the Easter eggs, you unlock director's cut, which allows you to start the game with all of the perks and 25,000 points, and I believe when you go down and resurrect, you keep all your perks, so it makes zombies a hell of a lot easier. You've just got to get those Easter eggs first, so that's my plan. Get through those and then burn through the rest. We then have Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 remastered, followed by Modern Warfare 2 2022. Got the 100% in that on launch. Thankfully, they haven't released any DLC yet. I did clean up Modern Warfare 2019's DLC though. I know in the first video I didn't have this done. Well, I've finally gone back and I've done that. We then have Vanguard and World War II, which was probably the first one I went and cleaned up in 2021, which was a blast with two very good friends of mine. We then have Celeste, which is a brilliant platformer that is very, very hard. It took me 2 days. You could do this a lot quicker if you use assist mode. I did the base game legit, and then I used assist mode to clean up the C sides and the B sides. I highly, highly, highly recommend this game. It is beautiful. The graphics are beautiful. The levels are actually very challenging, but thankfully when you die, you stay on the screen that you're currently on, so it doesn't send you back at all, which I think made the game a lot more enjoyable for me. I don't like losing a lot of progress, and so dying in Celeste just felt like I needed to get back on the horse and have another crack instantly, and it was brilliant. Chicken Police, you're a detective chicken solving a murder crime in a city full of animal people. It's interesting. I would recommend this one. It is free on PS Plus, I believe. Yeah, I would recommend Chicken Police. I think it has a PS5 stack, and I think I might do it soon because I actually really enjoyed that game. The story is interesting. City Skylines, the game that just never stops giving out DLC. I still have not earned Chirpnado. It's been so long, and I just can't get that trophy. I AFK all the time in the hopes that it's going to pop for me, and I think at this point I might have the worst luck in RNG history because I am getting my ass kicked trying to get that trophy. Once I have that, I will steamroll the rest, but I'm not doing the rest until I get that trophy. We then have Cloudpunk next. You are a taxi driver in a cyberpunk futuristic city. You're essentially just a taxi driver. The whole story is you taking people and items from point A to point B, and I loved it. I highly recommend this one as well to people. The voxel art style is fantastic. There is some collectibles at the end that are kind of annoying to explore a map and try and find, but this game is brilliant. It's simple, it's very basic, but oh, it is so enjoyable. Highly, highly recommend Cloudpunk. Conan Exiles is next. MMO set in the Conan the Barbarian universe. I finally went back and cleaned up the DLC. I don't recommend it. There is so much stuff you've got to just walk around the map looking for. And some of the locations I couldn't find on any map online. Some of them were just kind of, every map was incomplete and you kind of needed to combine them all to get a perfect one, which was not fun. I also finally cleaned up Concrete Genie, which was technically the only unobtainable on my account because I don't have VR. So I was able to finally knock that out thanks to a very, very good friend of mine. Shout out Bruce for helping me there. Control is next. I knocked that out a few years ago. I do need to do Alan Wake at some point though, and anytime I see that Control, I think I should do Alan Wake. I have it installed, I just never get round to it. Feels bad. Cult of the Lamb, one of my favorite games from last year. I smashed the platinum out very quickly. I did it after launch, which means there wasn't any bug trophies, but I highly recommend this one. This one is an absolute blast to do. We then have my Dark Souls of Shame. I haven't done 2 or 3 on this account. I have done them previously. Dark Souls 3, I adore. Dark Souls 2 is kind of a bit slow for my liking. 3, all I have left is I just need to farm the Silver Knights. I just don't want to, essentially. And then Dark Souls 2, I've got a lot to do. I just don't really enjoy that one quite as much. We then have the Darksiders here. I love Darksiders 1. Darksiders 2 I don't like. It takes a lot of elements from Skyrim, and Skyrim should not be your inspiration when you make a game, put it that way. And then Darksiders 3 took a lot of inspiration from Souls games. It's okay. It's kind of probably the most midpoint of the series. I have Genesis installed. I do want to do it soon. We then have Dayman 1998. This is a indie game based on the earlier Resident Evils that is actually pretty good. I've just been very lazy with it. I put it down to do something else and I just never came back to it. You could, as you can see by the guide, you could finish it fairly quickly. I believe that it's a 4-hour speed run. On easy, you could beat the game in like an hour. So it's not too difficult. On the hardest difficulty, your biggest problem is there's just a lot of zombies for very little ammo and like no healing items, which is kind of not fun. But it's good fun. I think I'm probably like halfway through the story, and once you do that first sort of hardcore playthrough, the rest of the trophies sort of start to massively pop. This is one that is definitely at least a decent priority to go back to at some point, actually. We then have Days Gone. Haven't done the challenges. If you've looked at my account for more than 2 seconds, I hate tacked on garbage challenges and time attack modes. In a game like Days Gone, they're not needed. I will get back to them at some point, but these are so low on the priority list, it's not funny. Dead Space Remastered. Might be my favorite thing I've played this year. The first original game is one of my favorite games of all time. So Dead Space Remastered is just brilliant to me. It looks good. The changes were quite good and made sense for the most part. The New Game Plus and the alternative ending I thought were really good. I would highly recommend this one. If you told me in November that I was going to adore Dead Space Remastered and hate Callisto Protocol, I would have laughed at you. Kind of makes me sad that that's how events turned out, to be honest. Death's Door, this is a brilliant kind of, how would I describe this? Top-down Metroid, I wouldn't even call it a Metroidvania. It's just, you play as a crow, you go and explore a world to beat some bosses, to work out what is happening with the doors of death. It is brilliant. The humor is on point. This is one that I would absolutely recommend to literally everyone. This is the kind of game like Tunic. It plays very similar to Tunic, just minus all of the secrets and stuff like that that make Tunic phenomenal. Yeah, I highly, highly, highly recommend Death's Door. We then have Deliver Us the Moon here. You're an astronaut trying to work out why a space station on the moon has gone down. I know that there is a sequel, Deliver Us to Mars or whatever. I do want to play that one at some point. We then have Demon Souls. I don't like Demon Souls. I love the rest of the Souls games. Demon Souls has aged poorly. The remaster is pretty. Demon Souls has aged poorly. I'm at that point in the game where I'm at the gauntlet to the Blind King or whatever he's called, and that is the worst area in a single Souls game. It is rough. I do want to clean that up at some point. I like some of the worlds in this game. I like some of the bosses are okay, but this is definitely like the Play-Doh that became the foundation for the rest of the series, and I can appreciate it for that. But that doesn't mean that I have to enjoy it. We then have Detroit Become Human. Talk about another game I don't have to enjoy. This is pretty rough. There's robots, they have feelings, and the police officer is the only interesting character in the entire game. Also, you have to play it far too many times. Heavy Rain is definitely still my favorite David Cage game, but that's like comparing different flavors of Brussels sprout. I mean, like, they exist. Do I like them? No. We then have Donut County here. You are a hole that sucks up objects. It's cruisy, it's relaxing, and it's very, very fun. Doom 2016. I did this one recently too. A couple good friends of mine, we sat down and smashed out the multiplayer. Shout out to you legends. And then I went through and knocked out the single player as well. This is one of my favorite first-person shooters of recent memory. This is just a fun game. You can go in, you can shut your brain off and you can have fun, or you can do some pretty complex things, and it is brilliant for it. I love it. I love Doom. Doom 3. First Doom I ever played because I'm a 2000s kid. And I love Doom 3. I don't love the trophy list. The trophy list is essentially play this game 4 million times and ain't nobody got time for that. We then have Dragon Age Inquisition. This is the MMO single player version of Dragon Age. It makes me the big sad. I need to go back and clean up some of that DLC at some point. Dragon Quest Builders 2. This was the first game that we did in the Platinum Standard Discord, link below, for the month of January. So every single month we do a poll, and whatever game wins, we go through and we play that in the Discord and we discuss it and play it as we go. Dragon Quest Builders was the first one that we did, and it was an absolute blast. It was essentially an RPG meets Minecraft meets some very competent building mechanics actually, and the result was quite fun, if not a little bit grindy. But I did quite enjoy it quite a bit. The next two games are probably the next closest things to easy peasies. I've got Drunken Fist. I just adore the concept of this. You're a drunk guy who beats up zombies, and not zombies in the first game, just regular people. You're just an asshole in the first game. But the second one, you beat up zombies, and it's got weird Resident Evil tank controls. And you urinate to make people slip over. That was enough to sell me on these. I did have fun with them for what they were, but they are definitely on the verge of trash easy peasy platinums. We then have the two Dying Lights. I love the first game. The second game doesn't exist to me. I wish I liked the second one. It's okay mechanically. Well, no, it's not. It's so broken mechanically that it's not funny. That is one of the most broken games I've ever played. I've tried to get that windmill trophy so many times now. I've joined people's games to try and get it. Shout out Warhearted for trying to help me back in, I believe it was November. No, it might have been December actually. I've done new game pluses, I've done new games, nothing works. That trophy is just not going to pop for me. So I'm going to wait for them to actually fix the game, because it's broken mechanically as well. If you load in, there's a good chance you'll fall through the floor. There's a good chance the textures just won't be there for like 5 minutes. Everything will just be gray. It's a whole thing. It actually hurts to see a game I was so looking forward to looking so bad. Alrighty, and next up we have Elden Ring. This game is phenomenal. It was my game of the year last year, of course, because of course it was everyone's game of the year last year. Brilliant, loved it. Enigmatis: A Ghost of Maple Creek. This is essentially the I Spy books I'm sure we all grew up with as a kid. I loved it. You're a detective trying to solve a case, and you need to look at different scenes to work out different items and stuff to progress the story. I have the second and the third game ready to go at some point. I should get onto those ASAP. Yeah, I should probably do those very soon. Evil Inside, this is another quick horror game. It was okay. Essentially, this is just the PT demo, but made by like one guy. It was okay. The jump scares were decent, but it was pretty short for what it was. Fall Guys triple stack, of course. I still play Fall Guys. I don't think I'm ever going to add the PS5 version though, just because I don't want to get another 5 wins in a row. I've done that twice already. I don't need to do it again. We then have Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. I need to do Fallout 76 as DLC at some point. I've just heard it's very, very grindy. So, ew. We then have the Far Cry's here with 3, 4, 5, 6, missing the shite roguelike DLCs, Primal and New Dawn. I like Far Cry 5, I love Far Cry 4, and Far Cry 3 is, of course, very, very good as well. The rest of those there, pretty garbage. We then have Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm just going to say it. I don't like the remake very much. I like the original quite a bit. I don't think it's as good as everyone on Earth thinks it is. I think it's a very, very good RPG. The remake just, I don't know why it didn't quite grip me. I don't know. I like some of the changes quite a bit. I like the changes involving Jesse and some of those characters a lot. It just didn't grip me, and I'm not entirely sure why. I should go back and clean that one up at some point as well. Firewatch, walking sim, you're in a forest. Your only communication is with another character via walkie-talkie. Brilliant game. Highly, highly, highly recommend Firewatch. Foreclosed, another really good sort of weird indie game. You are a guy in a third-person shooter who is trying to get his identity back that is owned by a mega corporation that's going bust, and therefore his identity that is an asset that is to be foreclosed. Interesting idea. I actually quite enjoyed it. Frightened is another weird indie horror game that I recommend to other people who like weird indie horror and no one else. This is very, very short and very, very weird. You are a security guard in an apartment complex that kind of just walks through a series of jump scares. There's no real story to this at all, but it was okay for what it was. It's another one where it's like on the verge of being easy peasy, but there is still some content to it. You got to do some things still. Gabuchi, this could be an easy peasy game. I did it legit. You can make this like a 40-minute platinum, 100% rather, by just like skipping every level in the game. If you don't skip every level, essentially you are a little monster that eats a bunch of blocks that are different colors, and so you've got to sort of work out what color you need to be to get through to the flag at the end. And if you eat the wrong bricks, you're not going to be able to complete the path to the flag. It's interesting. It's very, very basic, but some of the puzzles were actually fairly challenging, and I would recommend it just as sort of a cruisy one to do before it is taken off Plus later in April. We then have Ghosts of a Tale. I got this done before it left Plus in March, and I adore Ghosts of a Tale. This game is phenomenal. You are a little mouse in a fort that is occupied by rats, and essentially you're trying to work out where your wife is. While doing this, you're going to find other quirky characters. There's different disguises and stuff that have different perks. The trophies were brutal. A, half of them are very temperamental if they want to pop, and B, they're things like beat the game without taking a bit of damage, beat the game without being seen a single time, beat the game in under a certain amount of time, I think was one of them. There was a lot of stuff you had to do. There was a lot of stuff to keep track of. There's no guides for this game online. The best there is a Steam achievements overview thing. But yeah, I adore Ghost of the Tale, and this is one that I would recommend to a lot of people who like stealth games, especially, you know, your Metal Gear, stuff like that. This is one of those games that will tickle that fancy. We then have Ghost of Tsushima. I went back and cleaned up Ishii Island very recently. I plan on doing the raids with some good friends of mine and a couple of my wonderful mods in the Discord. So expect to hopefully see that 100% very soon. I've just been very lazy about organizing the raid, and I do apologize, Cat Lord Bruce, if you see this video. We then have Ghost Runner here. This is another one of those games that I played, not really going into it expecting much, and adored. This is a very fast-paced first-person wall-running sort of game. You are a melee character that dies in one hit and must kill a bunch of enemies by, you know, flipping over walls and stuff like that as fast as possible. The God of Wars are next with Ragnarok, 3 Remastered, and God of War. I nearly said Ragnarok followed by Gone Home, and that would have been Gone Home as a God of War game. That would be an interesting concept. I like God of War. I definitely like the original games a lot better than the new ones. Ragnarok to me was a great game that had way too many collectibles, and the combat kind of sucked. We've hit a point where The Last of Us was so successful that now every Sony first party game has to replicate it in some form or another. God of War Ragnarok takes the camera and the movement from Last of Us, and while they're both very good features from The Last of Us, they make Kratos not feel like a god. And I get the point that, yeah, he is older, but he's a god that lifted a Titan's foot in an earlier game that now needs a quick time event to lift a log, and that is a big drop in strength that it does kind of take me out of it a little bit. I find that the combat also doesn't make you feel like a god of war who can destroy other gods like he did in the earlier games. The earlier games, the basic enemy was just fodder. They were on the screen for 2 seconds before you eviscerated them, and it made you feel powerful, and I feel like they've gone away from that, and that's really not great in my opinion. I think the stories are brilliant. I think the characters are brilliant. I think the visuals are brilliant. I think most of the worlds are brilliant. But it's a game I play to feel like a god, and it definitely removed that for me personally. Do let me know if you agree or disagree. I assume most people will disagree. We then have Gone Home next, which is a walking sim where you return home to your house and all of your family is gone, and you've got to work out where on earth they are. We then have Grand Theft Auto 3, one of my least favorite experiences as a trophy hunter. I adored this game as a kid, but it came out 25 years ago. And it's showing its age. The mechanics were brutal. The aiming was brutal. Trying to get the RNG for a lot of those cars was very, very brutal. Which is why I only started San Andreas and haven't really done much progress since. This is one that I need to clean up. I just have no will to do it. Graveyard Keeper is a very funny one for me. This is one of my favorite games. I love those Stardew, My Time at Porsche sort of style games, and Graveyard Keeper is one of them. And I put the game down because I was only playing that and I needed content for this channel when I was doing the Resident Evil 7 videos and stuff like that. I would love to go back to that game, but it will eat up all of my time. I should just get the trophies done and then, you know, quarantine myself and back away safely. But that game is phenomenal. I highly recommend it to anyone who likes things like Stardew Valley, for example. Greedfall, I still need to do the DLC, and one of the endings bugged on me back in the day when there wasn't any guide, sort of closer to this game's launch back in the day. So I need to do a full playthrough for that. I like Greedfall. I like the setting of that sort of colonial period of time mixed with fantasy is really, really cool. I just don't know if I can do that for another 30 hours, having already beaten the game twice. We then have Green Hell. I love my survival games. I love the forest and things like that. Green Hell is a lot of fun. It's clunky, but it's got some really cool mechanics. You do things like, it's got a lot of illnesses and stuff that you have to treat. You've got to eat very certain things. You've got to watch your calories, which is interesting. It's a great game. You can play it in multiplayer, which I think was sort of why I put it down initially. I wanted to play that with other people, and I just haven't like found a group to do it with. At some point I will go back to Green Hell, but it's quite low on the priorities, at least for now. Definitely an ultra rare platinum that I do want to knock out at some point, because that is a juicy 2.18%. That might even tempt me to bump it up the priorities a little bit, because I wouldn't mind having that for a second version of my ultra rare platinums ranked at some point. Grey Skies. This is based on the War of the Worlds radio series, books, and movie with Tom Cruise that wasn't particularly good. This game is also not particularly good. I think it features the iconic tripods once in the entire game. It's the rest of it, you are fighting mind-controlled dudes and electric women. It's weird. It's very, very clunky. It's okay. It's short. You can see 10 hours there. Fairly short. I do have Darker Skies, which is the sequel that I'm hoping to do sort of semi-soon. I don't know if I would recommend it overall though. Gree is next, or Gris, I think it is Gree. This is essentially a side-scrolling game that has a very beautiful art style and a very beautiful soundtrack. I would recommend Gree to a lot of people as well. I think it might be free on Plus, I'm not entirely sure, but this is definitely one that I would recommend. Hades! I still haven't gone back to Hades. One day I will. But it is not this day. This is the only game on my account where I've earned one trophy and left it. I know that one will upset a lot of people. I do want to get back to it at some points. It's just, I don't like roguelikes very much, I think is my thing at the end of the day. And obviously it is one, I know it's a very good one. I know the progression is very rewarding and stuff like that. But the idea of trying to sit there with the RNG and wait for the certain gods that have certain boons that I need just doesn't sound very appealing. Hawken. I'm the 10th fastest achiever in Hawken, which is a really cool thing. This is an MMO where you play, it's essentially Titanfall, but budget. It's good. You can speedrun all of the trophies, which is nice. So essentially what you do is the trophies would be quite grindy normally, naturally. You have to get a lot of money to do them. But if you just log in daily for like a month and not play the game, you will get enough money to then go and knock out the trophies. And then all you got left is a tutorial. I feel like it's the kind of game I would have loved. I loved Titanfall 2's multiplayer back in the day, but this game is now very dead in 2023. Hell Let Loose. I love Hell Let Loose. It's a first-person realistic World War I simulator, World War II simulator rather, that has brutal trophies. And as you can see, one of the DLC maps is off rotation and has been unobtainable since December. I have that trophy, thankfully, but the trophies are rough if you don't boost, and there's a lot of, get artillery kills, and artillery is rough to use and kind of boring. The game itself is very, very fun though, very punishing. You'll spend a lot of time running for like 3 minutes only to die to an enemy that you never saw. But I do find it quite rewarding, and that is another ultra rare platinum I do plan on getting very, very soon. Next up we have Hitman 3. I just have the Sniper DLC and one of the maps in the DLC left. Will I go back to them? At some point. I hate the sniper mode in Hitman. It is very not fun, but the rest of the game is phenomenal. And I have some extremely fond memories of playing that game on stream back in the day when I was bald, because, let's look at this mane. But, back when I was bald, I would chuck a barcode on my head and I would run the, I didn't mean to give you all the finger, my bad, but I would run the game pretending like I was the hitman, and I would change outfits anytime. I think there was, what was it? It was there was a channel point reward, and I think there was also donations. And one stream I went through like 30 outfits in 40-degree heat and I died. That was a lot of fun, an absolute blast, and I am saving that last map on Hitman 3 for when I do eventually make a return to streaming. We then have Hoa. This is a relatively short, you could probably do it in like half the time it took me, walking sim, essentially, a little platforming walking sim with a really awesome water painted sort of art style. I really liked that. It was a lot of fun. Hogwarts Legacy. Boy, this is a game of two halves. Hogwarts, Hogsmeade, and the Forbidden Forest are phenomenally designed. Brilliant. The collectibles in them are brilliant. The combat is fun. The rest of the open world might be the most boring open world I've ever seen. It is completely empty of anything. The Merlin trials are essentially just the same 5 puzzles recycled over and over again, but except this time you roll the ball down the hill as opposed to pull it up the hill. That's fancy. That's a big brain move right there. The story is pretty nothing, in all honesty. What I wish this game had done is gotten rid of the open world completely. That was not necessary in the slightest. And instead, just had it be grounded as you a student at Hogwarts, and there be something at the castle that is causing issue and you've got to, you know, solve it. Get rid of all of that open world around it. That's not necessary. It's not even necessary for the story. There's an entire section of the map you go to once. And, you know, have a bit of different quests for different houses. So they did that with one quest. Hufflepuff has by far the best quest, which is the one I experienced naturally because I was sorted in a Hufflepuff out of the gate. Also, going back and getting the other 3 houses was kind of rough. Hollow Knight, this was another game we did in the Platinum Standard Discord for February. Metroidvania, very, very good game. The Pantheons are rough. I did the entire base game legit, and then I used the glitch to get invincible for the Pantheons. I don't regret it. That would have been a waste of time. Horizon Forbidden Dawn and the weird one here that's a glitch and doesn't exist. I wish they would do a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. We then have Horror Tales The Wine, which is a indie horror game, of course, that wasn't particularly good. You are in an Italian estate slash apartment slash Antarctica, and there's a man with a head sometimes that doesn't have a head sometimes trying to kill you. It's very, very basic at best and very, very clunky at worst. Hot Wheels Unleashed. This is the current racing game that I'm sort of chipping away at. I pop in every few days and do some races. I'm not impressed by this one, and that hurts me. I grew up with Hot Wheels. I love Hot Wheels, but this ain't it, Chief. This is a very, very basic arcadey sort of racing game with really bad corner turning slash drifting. I haven't got that down just yet. It's like you've got to tap it really early, but just tap it. You don't hold anything. Otherwise you will hit a wall, which is an interesting way to do it. I'm surprised they didn't just steal Need for Speeds. We then have Hue. This is an indie exploring sort of Metroidvania-ish sort of game where different power-ups are essentially different colors in the world, and that, you know, unlocks different shapes and stuff that you can platform on. It's a cool idea that I haven't gone back to, and I really, really should. And then to round out the H's, we have Hunt Showdown, which was so rough. I did this with 2 very good friends of mine. We haven't properly played a game since. This was very grindy. We had a lot of things like, we had like 2 hours straight where we couldn't get into the same game and play. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend Hunt Showdown to anyone. This was a very rough experience. Next up, we have Ikai, which was another sort of short walking sim sort of horror game that wasn't great, in all honesty. I definitely wasn't sold on this one. Immortals Phoenix Rising, Ubisoft made a Breath of the Wild clone that is hot garbage. The narration is quite good. That is about the only recommendation I really have for Immortals Phoenix Rising. In Rays of Light, this is the prequel to 35mm. You are a man in a dilapidated office building, and the sun is evil. If the sun gets you, you won't get a trophy. So the sun is evil. Infamous, we've got Infamous First Light and Second Son here. I have the 100% in both. I definitely enjoy Second Son a lot more than the arena focus of First Light. We then have Inscription here, which is a very, very good card game. I've just been playing this with friends. I've got a couple of really good friends that I'll jump in a Discord call with and strategize new moves and stuff like that with this game. I feel like if I played this by myself, it's the kind of game I would just sort of fizzle out on, but with other people and like talking about, you know, what we're going to do to beat the enemy and stuff like this, It's a brilliant game. The other thing that's brilliant about Inscription is it's always keeping you on your toes. It's always doing something new. It's always turning mechanics upside down, tipping the scales. It's really good for that sort of thing. It keeps you never really getting into a routine, and that's a really cool concept about the game. I do highly recommend Inscription. From the little bit I've played so far, I'm just on Act 2, but my initial impressions are that it is fantastic. We then have Inside next, which is a creepy indie horror walking sim that is it's brilliant. I highly recommend Inside. Insomnus, another horror indie walking sim that you're in a spooky mansion and there's a lab underneath and you are picking up books and stuff. It is very, very simple. This was another one that I believe Mert KK might have had a recommendation for, so I gave it a crack. It was okay. It was definitely nothing special at the end of the day. Jazzpunk is next. This is a spy game. It's a very, very quirky game. It's a very easy game at only 4 hours, but I would highly recommend this one as well. Journey to the Savage Planet. I love this game. This is you've crash landed on a savage planet and you must get off the planet, essentially. You must get enough materials to escape. It's brilliant. I highly recommend this game, especially with a friend. Yeah, really, we need to do the hardcore DLC at some point, but otherwise it's cruisy. Jurassic World Evolution 2. This game killed my PlayStation 4 Pro. Like, literally, it killed it. Very fun park building simulator. The challenge mode, which is what I have left in the game, is brutal. If you get bad RNG and you have back-to-back storms, your several-hour run is over. But otherwise, it's a great game. I finally got Kena Bridge of Spirits wrapped up. After far too long, I finally went back and did the hardcore master difficulty. There was a patch that finally fixed the chest that was glitched on me, so that's great. I love that that's a thing. Finally got that 100% and it feels so good. We then have Killing Floor 2. I just get back into this periodically and smash out the one DLC trophy that comes up periodically. Killing Floor, Shadowfall, and Shadowfall Intercept. The servers were shutting down in August, so I went back and I smashed out the DLC for the base game and the standalone DLC as well. The only trophy I have left is the hardest difficulty in the DLC, so that will be 100% obtainable for me when I eventually go back for that. The DLC, the multiplayer grind, was boring. Kona, this is a detective walking sim where you are in, I believe it is Alaska, and you are trying to work out why someone's died and why someone else has disappeared in a very remote little settlement. It's okay. The trophies kind of suck. There's one where you can't use a snowmobile, which means that you are just fat walking through snow the entire game, which A, makes the game dramatically longer, and B, is very boring. LA Noire, this is a brilliant game where you are a detective in LA, trying to solve a set of murder cases and things like that over about a decade span. You see the city grow within that decade. It's a really cool concept, and I did really enjoy this one. Last Day of June, this is an indie game that is very short but very touching. Essentially, you are revisiting a bunch of memories about the last day of June. Last Stop, this is a walking sim, much in the same way of the Telltale games. You play 3 separate stories that all sort of merge and intertwine into one another and then collide towards the end. It's okay. I wasn't sold on Last Stop. One of the stories is so much better than the other 2 that it's not funny. And I don't know if I could recommend this one in all honesty. We then have Layers of Fear. I didn't like it in 2019. I still don't particularly like it now. It's a walking sim through a horror house. Essentially, you were just replaying the same areas, but with different bits of horror. And oh, now we're upside down. And oh, now the lights are out. It was okay for a first playthrough. I need to go back and get those trophies, though. I've been very lazy about that. I've done the second game, though. Probably because you only had to play it once. We then have the Lego games that I have in Marvel Superheroes, Force Awakens, Skywalker Saga, and Lego Worlds. Yes, I did Lego Worlds. help me. I need someone to hold me. That was a rough time, especially because my save corrupted. So I did the 10 billion bricks like 1.7 times, that's like 15 hours of just sitting there and holding X. I don't recommend. Last of Us, I've got all of them on here. I have the first game's 100%. I just started the second game yesterday. I hate it so far. It is not good. I think the first game is pretty damn good. Before the Storm is okay. Definitely less interesting. You know, the Chloe's superpower in Before the Storm is the power of sarcasm, which we went from altering time states to sarcasm as our power. Life is Strange 2 is kind of just not great. Like, the characters are not that interesting. The kid is really annoying. Yeah, I don't know why I don't like that one quite as much. True Colors, on the other hand, I really, really liked. That's probably my favorite of them overall. I definitely got quite a kick out of that one when I did it last year. Little Nightmares, I've done both of them to 100%. I adore these games. The first game has a video on my channel. I kind of want to do Little Nightmares PS5 at some point soon. I've been kind of missing that game, so I might do the second game on the PS5 stack at some point fairly soon. I'm not too sure just yet. I've kind of avoided stacks until recently, so it's kind of like, maybe I will. Like, I've got them, so maybe I will pop a few of them at some point. Lords of the Fallen. This is the longest incomplete game on my account. It will remain that way probably for a good long time. I'm saving this for my 10,000th platinum trophy. We then have Lost Words Beyond the Page. This was a very charming side-scrolling free game on PS Plus. You are essentially a girl who's coming to terms with an event that's happened in her life through inventing a story in her diary journal thing, and it is brilliant. I highly recommend this to anyone who just wants a short but really story rich game. Madison, I do like Madison. This is another horror game where you are sit in a house and creepy things happen. I just haven't done the collectibles in the second playthrough. Pretty much just because I'm lazy. I've done like 2/3 of the second playthrough in January. I probably could finish it in like 2 hours, so I should probably just do that at some point. I just refuse to for some weird reason. The Mafias. I've done everything but the DLC in the second game. Falling for 12 hours through the map to get those miles trophies only to have it crash is rough every single time, so I just sort of slowly chip away at that periodically. We then have Maneater, Baby Shark, do 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 do. That is all, do 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 do. We then have Martha is Dead here, which is another game that Merc KK didn't recommend, but I like horror, so I was like, yeah, I'll do this. Didn't recommend, not good, 0 out of 10. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. My opinion of this is very similar to Peter's from Missing Collectibles. Game is beautiful, combat is poop. Marvel Spider-Man I've done. I need to do Miles Morales at some point. I have yet to do that one, which is just me being lazy. I've heard it's really, really good. I've put it on the poll for the Platinum game in the Discord a few times, but I don't think it's ever won. We then have the Metroids here. I adore these games. I only have the DLC in Exodus left, just one of the 2 DLCs. I think it's called Sam's Story. I have the game installed, so I might knock that out very, very soon just to get that juicy 100% series completion. We have the Middle of Earth games with Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. I need to do like 1 trophy in both of them for the Platinum. It's the gem in Shadow of Mordor. It's the stupid endgame war thing for War. And then I have the DLCs for both of them to do. Minecraft 100% feels good. Trying to get a version that could play the 2 PvP DLCs was balls. I don't recommend that. That's why the game took me so long to do. Monster Hunter World, this is kind of similar to Hitman 3. I did a lot of these on stream. I'm kind of saving them for when I return to streaming so that we can do more of it there. I love these games so much, and I am so bad at them. We then have Moons of Madness, which might be one of my favorite horror games I played in recent memory. Highly recommend this one if you like horror. Essentially, you are on Mars or a moon of Mars or something like that, and weird stuff starts to happen, and there's some really creepy stuff. It's quite good. I highly recommend that one. Mortal Shell, I got right the way to near the end of the platinum and my save corrupted, and I'm not returning to that anytime soon. It is a cool idea for a Souls-like with really bad environments. Whoever decided to have the central world be a swamp, you're bad. I don't like you. You're not invited to my birthday party. We then have Murdered Soul Suspect here, which is a game I remember nothing about, followed by My Big Sister, which is I think there's 3 of them. I own the other 2. I haven't done them yet, mainly just because I'm lazy. But these are essentially horror games, but with that like classic Pokemon aesthetic to them, and they work really well. I think they're quite short. Like, I think if you were to do My Big Sister by using save file manipulations and stuff like that, you could probably get it done in like an hour. I did it in a lot longer than an hour, and I really enjoyed it. The dialogue was on point. The horror stuff was quite good. Like, you'd think it'd be quite limited by that sort of art style and everything, but it was quite good. I actually genuinely highly recommend My Big Sister, and hopefully the others when I get around to playing them. I should do those soon just to knock them out of the way. My Name is Mayo 1 and 2. I haven't done 3 yet. I did 2 in that video where I had to guess my platinums. I've been saving My Name is Mayo 3 for another video kind of like that one. So that'll be a lot of fun. Narcosis. This is a horror, believe it or not. This is a horror game where you are a diver at the bottom of the ocean, and it is so not good. It had so much potential and it falls flat in every single regard. I've never seen a game where the movement was a different speed to the camera, and both sticks affect the camera speed in 2 different ways. It is really jarring. I know a good friend of mine, Beautiful Torment, got ill trying to play that. Like it would make him sick looking at the camera. Also, you have to play it all in one sitting, because if you don't get the collectible trophies. So that's not fun. That was kind of really rough. Essentially, I mean, it's only 4 hours long, as you can see with the guide there. I think it took me closer to 5, but that's a long time to sit with a game that you can't stop because you won't get the trophies and then have to do it again. Need for Speed Heat. One of my goals this year is to try and get as many of the PS4 Need for Speeds done as possible. My controller just fell over and scared the crap out of me. That's fun. But yeah, I want to do as many of the PS4 Need for Speeds as possible. Probably not 2016, just because I don't want to do that DLC. But Hot Pursuit and the rest of them, absolutely. Heat was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed everything but the drifting. It was, some of those challenges for the drifting were very hard, but the rest of the game was quite fun. Too many collectibles. You spend quite a lot of that game's completion time just driving around the map, picking up collectibles, and that was kind of balls. Nerved is next. This is another really garbage indie horror game where you essentially just walk around an open world and pick up pages that had a better premise in the description. I've got to stop reading horror game descriptions and going, that sounds awesome. I need to start looking into like what percentage rarity the trophies have, and like maybe look up some gameplay, because it has caught me out on a few of these so far. Black Dirge being the worst of those perpetrators, but Nerved was definitely up there as well for it. It had the nerve to do it to me, you might say. Righty, and next up we have Observer System Redux, which is another one of those games I really liked, but like there were no guides for this at all. I had like 15 different tabs up for the different types of missable trophy, because everything in Observer is missable, of course. Old Man's Journey. This was a fun little sort of puzzle game. You play as an old guy who is trying to find his long lost family. You move him by like moving hills up and down, which is a really weird thing to say. It was good. It was very short, but it was definitely enjoyable. Omno. This was free on Plus. You are in a bunch of different hubs collecting stuff. It's just a collectathon, but it was a very pretty and very charming short one. So I definitely liked it quite a bit. Outer Wilds. I love Outer Wilds. I hate the rocket ship with a passion, but you take the rocket ship away, it is one of the greatest games of all time, I would say. Outlast, another one of my favorite games of all time. I loved the first Outlast. I just have the collectibles essentially to go and the hardcore run. I know you can definitely just crouch walk to exploit the first game. The second game, I have the very difficult Messiah trophy left. I want to get back to that at some point. I just have a lot of other games I want to cover first. Party Hard, one of my favorite little sort of charming arcade games. You're a guy who wants to sleep, but a party's keeping you up, so you go and murder everyone at different environments. It's very fun. I would love to do the second game, but I've heard that the trophies are glitched in that one, which is a massive shame. Pinball Heroes, I did this for the category competition that we have in the Platinum Standard Discord. So we have a competition where you have to get a game in every genre. Pinball's one of those genres, so I loaded up Pinball Heroes, which is a port of the original PlayStation 1 game. It was good fun. I actually really enjoyed it, except for the Fat Princess level. That level blowed. We then have Predator Hunting Grounds, which was actually a lot of fun and has me semi-tempted to self-boost Friday the 13th at some point. I really enjoyed this one. As I said before with Alien, I love the universe of Alien and Predator. I adore pretty much everything from it that isn't the movies in recent years. And yeah, I got a massive kick out of this one. Prey was my Platinum 150. I loved this game. It's from the makers of Dishonored. You are on a space station that has had an alien outbreak from aliens that can mimic anything. So a coffee mug might start randomly attacking you. It was great fun and I highly recommend. Another game, this Proteus was one of my top 10 games of 2022. I loved it. This is essentially a first-person shooter that's very inspired by classic Doom. Very fast, very fun. I highly recommend this one as well. Ratchet & Clank, I've done 2016 and Rift Apart. I didn't think either of those was particularly special. I think Up Your Arsenal is still my favorite, but both of these are solid games. Red Dead Online, this is another very solid game, except for that moose that made me wait like 12 hours for it. Remnant from the Ashes. This is a game I really want to go back and clean up soon. So, Epic, if you're watching this, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, my friend. The time has come. Execute Order 66. I really want to do this one soon. This is essentially a Souls-like, but with guns, which is an amazing combination that just should not work, but it so does, and I love it. The Resident Evils, we're getting into a big series completion for me. This is one of my favorite series of all time. It might be my overall favorite series of all time. I've got Resident Evil 2. I haven't done the A Way Out DLC. I really want to. Resident Evil 3, I auto-popped, but I didn't mean to auto-pop this. So, a couple nights ago, I was sitting there and I was like, man, I really want to play Resident Evil. Like, I'm so excited for 4 to come out that I really want to play it. And I was like, I can do 3 in a night. Like, I know I can beat 3 in less than an hour. So I'm going to do 3. I downloaded it. I loaded it up. One thing you should know about me is I don't read. I don't listen. I don't pay attention. I'm the worst person to talk to. So I just, when a game loads up, you get all the EULAs and the terms and agreements and stuff. I just click through them. I'm bad like that. Resident Evil 3 has a thing where it will import your PlayStation 4 data and that'll auto pop the trophies. But I thought that'd just be on like the main menu or something. I didn't think it would be like on the EULA agreements and stuff. It was just a pop-up menu in the sea of pop-up menus. So I was just clicking through it and then all of a sudden all the trophies, but I think one of them didn't pop. So then I had to play the game for 8 minutes to get to a point where I could pop that trophy, which was kind of annoying. I really wanted to play the game. And that has me kind of like, well, do I just do the rest of like the auto pops I have available? Like I can. I've never really wanted to in the past, but like, I don't know. I've got a couple on there now. So Resident Evil 4 though, I started it this morning. I've been recording this on the 24th. So 4 days towards till my birthday. That's kind of cool. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm 2 chapters in. I like that the list is a bit more challenging than the recent Resident Evils. I like that there's a few runs where you can't just use an OP infinite weapon gun. That's kind of nice, and I am really enjoying it so far. Oh my goodness, someone already has the platinum. That is terrifying. We then have Resident Evil 5. I just have a couple trophies left in the 2-player PvP DLC. I've done the 4-player one, I just haven't done the 2-player one, so I'll do that with my alt at some point. Resident Evil 6, I'm slowly working through this at the moment as well. I've done pretty much all the DLC multiplayer. I just have that really awful Siege one that I'm doing with my good friend. We're putting it off because it's awful. But yeah, chipping away at that, and I still have a lot of the single player left, which I just don't enjoy it. I've often said that it's a good, like, Michael Bay action flick kind of game, but a bad Resident Evil. I think it might just be a bad game overall, because going back to get this platinum for a second time has been rough. I've been bored to tears several times and put it down several times. We then have Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. I just have a lot of the DLC left. I've been slowly chipping away at it. I do like a trophy here and there periodically. I love Resident Evil 7. It's one of my favorites in the series. RE-verse. I didn't hate RE-verse. It's probably the most frustrated I've ever been with a game. A couple of my good friends can probably attest to that from being in a voice call with me while I tried to grind out Leon's win. But besides the Leon win, fundamentally it's a bad game. But at a core basic level, it's got all the things it needs for a decent game. There's some real bullshit there, like being stun-locked to death by everything is bad. The movement is clunky. There's a lot of bad things, but underneath it is just a very, very basic competitive PvP multiplayer that I didn't hate. I had fun with the most part. I even went back and helped a friend get it because I didn't hate it. It was kind of fun in a really simplistic, basic, play it for like one day kind of way. Resistance is the worst thing I've ever done trophy hunting, and I hate it with a passion. That's all I need to say there. I do plan on doing Umbrella Corps soon though, so that might take its place. We then have, to round them out, Resident Evil Village. So I still need to do Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 1, the OG version of Resident Evil 4, and the 2 Revelations games. Once I do all those, I'm good. And one of my goals this year is to try and get as many of those completed as possible. So wish me luck. We then have Return of the Obra Dinn. This is one of my favorite games of all time. It might even be top 3 in all honesty. You are a insurance agent who goes onto a pirate ship or a cargo ship rather, where the crew has mysteriously vanished, and you use small snippets of their memories to work out who each individual was and how they died. It is fantastic how complex it is, the different ways that you can work out who someone is. I remember distinctly working out one person that led to a chain reaction of working out about 12 people, and the feeling of accomplishment that I got doing that was just, oh, it's unmatched. It was so good. We then have Rime, which was my first platinum trophy on Symmetry. The end is a new beginning, which is very, very fitting. I like Rime. It's an indie platforming adventure game. It was pretty good. I liked it quite a lot. Rise of the Tomb Raider. I hate time trials and score attacks. This game has both of those. Those are all I have left to get the 100% in this game. Road 96. This is walking sim, story driven, done correctly. This was a fantastic game. You play as several different teenagers through a generated sort of story. All the encounters are kind of randomly given to you in any order, and you might not succeed. You might run out of money before you can escape. The teenagers are all trying to escape the country that they're in by crossing the northern border, and you got to manage resources whilst doing it. It's a really cool concept, very story driven, but very, very unique. I highly, highly recommend Road 96. Rollerdrome, another game that was in my favorite games of 2022. This is essentially a third-person shooter on roller skates. You do a lot of tricks, you do a lot of killing. It was very, very fun and very, very quick too. If you were to use assist mode, you could smash that out in like 4 hours probably. Rumbleverse, the servers were shutting. I heard that it was relatively easy, so I popped on and I got that done in the course of a day. It was nothing special. I think it might have been made by the same people who did Fortnite. Probably explains a lot why I didn't like it, but it was very, very basic, very, very clunky, and I won't say that I missed it. The servers are now down though, so I can say that I have that ultra rare 100% right there in the bag. And next up we had the three Saints Row, with 4 re-elected, which is the Australian version, the unique version due to censorship. And then we have Get Out of Hell, and we round it out with the Saints Row the third. I don't know why I want to say the 3 each time. We then have Save Room, which is my only, I think, Retallica game. This is essentially a game revolving entirely around the Resident Evil 4 management system. And it was a blast. I loved every second of trying to make things fit in a very limited space. It was really cool. Seasons After the Fall. This was a platformer that I did because it was leaving Plus in January. And I was super disappointed with it. I was not a fan of this one at all, actually. Can't recommend. We then have Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I got the 100% in this one. Probably the worst of the trilogy in my opinion. Shadow Warrior 3 is next, which I actually really enjoyed this one. The first person shooter / hack and slash. Great fun. It's a shame that that was only on Plus for a very limited amount of time. Sherlock Holmes, I want to do the rest of them, but I just have the Devil's Daughter from now. I swear the newest one is just 24/7 on sale. We then have Sifu, which was another of my favorite games last year. I still have to do the beating the game under the age of 25, and then it's pretty much just collectible cleanup from there. I put it down to try and get, essentially at the end of the last year, I wanted to do a top 10 of the best and worst games of the year, which I do have both videos on the channel. And I hadn't played enough, so I essentially tried to smash out a bunch of them, Sifu being one of them that I just never returned to for the trophies, which I still need to do. We then have Silver Chains, which was a relatively short and average horror game where you're in a spooky house and bad things have happened and bad things proceed to happen. Sleeping Dogs, one of my favorite GTA clones. I love that game, followed by one of my favorite series here with Sniper Elite. I still have to do authentic difficulty for 3, but I have done the 100% in 4 and 2. We then have Soma, which is another underwater horror walking sim, followed by the 2 South Park games. Spirit of the North is next, which was it was okay. It was like a walking sim, but you're a fox, and there was a bunch of collectibles, and that's really all it had to offer. It crashed on me a couple times. I don't know if I would recommend Spirit of the North, but it was very, very pretty. We then have SpongeBob. I don't like this game. I didn't grow up with SpongeBob. We didn't have Nickelodeon in my household, so I don't have nostalgia for this series. So going into this was it was very pretty, but it was kind of a janky platformer, and I got all the way to the platinum, and the socks glitched on me. Gave Patrick all of my spatulas, gave him all my socks, and he didn't give me anything back. So no trophy for me. And if I were to go back and replay the game, my most recent save before handing those in was from about 3 hours earlier. And I'm not doing the dream sequence again. That was just not fun. So I'm putting that one on the shelf for now. I'm sure I will clean it up in the future, but for now, SpongeBob, you hurt me. You hurt me bad. We then have Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I smashed out over 2 weeks. About a week of that was getting all the trophies but one, and the rest of that time was me doing the level 55 every Wednesday, loading on for triple XP and doing a couple matches. It was average. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. This is a very fun racing pod racer game that I believe you can cheese, but it's just a fantastic game overall. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, another great one. This is a baby first Souls game. Very, very fun. Another one I'm tempted to replay again at some point with the sequel coming out in next month, I believe, in about a month's time. Star Wars Republic Commando, one of my favorite shooters ever. That game is amazing. The cliffhanger that it ends on hurts my soul. I would love to know what happens, but alas, I doubt we ever will get a get a conclusion for that one. We then have Stranded Deep, which is the forest on a raft, and it is very bad. I did it before there was any guides, so that was fun. Can't say I recommend that choice, but it is a juicy ultra rare that really fluctuates. I've seen it as low as in the 1s, and I've seen it as high as in the 3s, which is kind of wild. I don't think I've ever seen a game fluctuate more than it. We then have Stray. Stray's okay. Stray would not have done anywhere near as well as it did if you're not a cat. You take that away and it is a very average game. Subnautica is next. I love this game. You're a diver. You get resources together to make vehicles to allow you to dive further and build bases and stuff and uncover what is on this alien aquatic planet. It's a really cool concept. Siphon Filter 3, I love the first 2 games in the series. I hate Siphon Filter 3, so when I saw that there was the easy way of knocking this game out, I popped on and I did that. I will do the other 2 games legit at some point so that I have a series completion, and I think the PSP one might have been just released on Plus 2, so I'll do that one as well. But 3 was really bad in my opinion. I played all these as a kid and wasn't anywhere near a bigger fan of this one, so I knocked it out while I had the opportunity. We then have Tacoma. This is a game where you are on a space station trying to work out what happened to everyone. Terminator Resistance, surprisingly not awful. I don't mind this one. This is another one I wouldn't mind replaying because I know there is PS5 exclusive DLC, so it'd be cool to sort of do that at some point. The Artful Escape, you run left and you play guitars. But it's got Carl Weathers, so get brownie points for that. The Callisto Protocol, this is a glitch. This doesn't exist. And neither does the DLC that it keeps putting out every month. It's trash and I don't like this game. This game hurt me. This game is probably the most disappointed I've ever been in a game's release. I was very, very keen for this. I love the original Dead Space. This game has a cool world. I like the level design. The combat is trash. And all of these DLCs that just need you to replay the game over and over again can die in a hole. The Council. This is a Telltale-like game where you go to an island mansion where all the world leaders are and not much happens. It starts strong, it starts to fall apart early on. I was warned not to play this. Those people were right. I'm sorry for ever doubting you. But also, I've never had a game break like the audio worse than that. I had a lot of issues where the audio would just break and it'd be very hard on the ears. We then have the Elder Scrolls Online. A lot of stacks of this. I really should get it done at some point. I am slightly concerned about the PS4 version becoming offline at some point. But yeah, I need to go back and clean that up at some point. But I have a lot of games I want to play that would take that time up. The Evil Within 1. Not a big fan of this one. It's got weird issues with like the frame rate and stuff. I should go back and clean it up though. It would be a really good one to get that 100%. I did do the Evil Within 2 though, which was an improvement in pretty much every way, which was very, very pleasant. I was definitely very happy with that. The Forest, I adore the Forest. You crash on an island and have to find your son, all whilst building a cannibal empire. It is amazing, and I enjoyed every minute, both with friends and by myself. The Gardens Between, this is a puzzle game that's relatively short. It is free on Plus, but I would highly, highly recommend this one as well. Probably the best puzzle game I've played in a little bit of time. I still need to do things like Marquette, but The Gardens Between was really, really good. The Great Perhaps, this was another really cool little puzzle game that I did recently. You're an astronaut who comes back to Earth to find that the planet's been wiped out, and you have a lamp that lets you go back in time, so you can sort of swap between realms of reality to get through levels. So it was kind of a really cool concept, if not very, very short. The Last Campfire, this is another one that I adore. This is made by the guys that did, what's that Planet game that no one liked? Am I forgetting the name of that Planet game? What was the, oh geez, that's going to annoy me. The one where there was 4 million planets and you did nothing but fly between them, that one. It's made by them. Essentially, you are a little dude who helps souls pass on to the afterlife, and you explore a couple of different environments doing that. The Last of Us Part 2, not much to really say there. It's okay. I didn't have the bias to the first game that everyone else did. I definitely was nowhere near attached to the characters the way that some people were. So the events of that game, I just appreciated for being kind of a ballsy move. They didn't really affect me in any way. I will say that I wish the game was entirely from Abby's perspective. I thought Ellie's perspective was probably the weaker part. The devs definitely try to put some lessons onto you while railing you down one decision that you can't get out of several times, which kind of took me out of what they were trying to do. But it's all right. I mean, both Last of Us games are very well done in pretty much every aspect. We then have The Medium. This game hurt me. This is another blooper team. It's another blooper team that didn't pop on me, so I had to do multiple runs. That is essentially just a gimme when it comes to blooper team and me these days. This is probably their best game, but oh boy, do they not handle some of the themes they're trying to push well at all. Some of them were just absolutely garbage, and other people have talked a lot more in depth than I can on the subjects. The Order 1886, this is essentially Cut Sim Simulator. I really enjoy this game though. The Park, horror game where you're in a theme park trying to find your son. The Pedestrian, this is a game you can do in 5 minutes. I did it legit because it's quite a fun little puzzle game. Essentially, you're a little guy on various different signs within a city environment, and it's quite a lot of fun. I would recommend doing this one. The Sims 4, I used the gallery thing to make this relatively quick for me. Sinking City, much like Call of Cthulhu, came out. Lovecraftian, this is an open world detective one. One thing I really like about this game is you can disable markers and entirely do the game based on different clues that the NPCs give you, which is really, really cool. It gave me a lot of thoughts back to how it worked in like Morrowind, for example. The Suicide of Rachel Foster. Don't play this. Bad game, supports like pedophiles, which is not cool. Don't like that. Don't recommend that game at all. Even if you like horror games, it is not worth playing. It's bad. The Turing Test. This is another puzzle game I did recently because it was leaving Plus. I liked it, but I thought the puzzles were kind of just really repetitive after a while. There wasn't really much in the way of variety. We then have The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. This is a detective sim where you are trying to find what happened to Ethan Carter and the rest of the Carter family. This was a great little one. This was actually really, really good. I highly recommend this. The Witcher 3. I love The Witcher 3. Not much to say there besides that it's amazing. I really want to do the PS5 version when I have some time at some point. Maybe I'll do it as a milestone, perhaps. We then have Thronebreaker: The Witcher Tales, which is essentially Gwent from The Witcher 3, but really, really focused on with a really, really good story. The story and the environments in Thronebreaker were fantastic. If you're a fan of the world of The Witcher, you must play Thronebreaker. I will say the Gwent part is pretty basic. It's just Gwent, and Gwent doesn't really have the complexity that something like Inscription's going to give you, or Slay the Spire, but it is still solid. The game does crash a bit though, so be aware of that. Make some saves periodically because it definitely 100% will crash. We then have Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, fantastic Borderlands game, garbage characters and garbage DLC. That DLC is awful. Essentially, it's just 4 levels that you have to run 4 times each, back to back to back. It sucks. Tinykin, this is a collectathon akin to sort of the original like Jack and Daxter's and stuff. You explore a house environment picking up orbs. It's fantastic. Highly recommend this one. Titanfall 2, I still need to do the gauntlet. I've never tried it mostly just because I'm lazy. So at some point I'll get around to it. I promise. I pinky promise. We then have Tome, beautiful little collectathon here as well. Chicory's one that I'd really like to do actually. We then have Tom Clancy's Wildlands and Siege. I do like these games. Wildlands I played like once with my good friend and then we never went back to. We should probably get back and clean that up at some point because that'll definitely be a very, very beefy cleanup for us both. Tomb Raider, 12 hours of picking up medkits. That's all I need to say there. Tormented Souls is probably my favorite Resident Evil clone. This is very akin to the original Resident Evil and is very, very good. I definitely want to do the stack at some point because it is fantastic. You could use, I think it's the dev console if you really wanted to, but boy, would you be taking an experience away from yourself that is phenomenal. Transference, this was a quick sort of little indie science game. I don't know what I'd really say about it. It was okay. Tropico 5, this is kind of like City Skylines. It's a good fun one. You play as a dictator on an island that builds up a community and forges alliances or rivalries with other nations around the world. My empire was built on bananas. We then have Tunic, which I did very fast. Bear in mind, I did play Tunic on the Xbox when it came out. So it came out on the Xbox, I believe, in March of last year and didn't come to PlayStation until about August. So I had played it previously, so I knew exactly what I was doing with most of the puzzles, and I went through and I smashed it out in like 3.5 hours. 12 minutes. This is a weird little indie game. It stars Willem Dafoe, and I think James McAvoy might be in it as well. I can't fully remember. But essentially you relive the same 12 minutes until you can break the loop. It's a cool concept that you've got to do probably a little bit too many times. Ultimate Chicken Horse. I adore this game. This was my 100th platinum trophy. You have to try and get to the end of an obstacle course while sabotaging everyone else. It's a really cool little party game, much akin to like the Jackbox games. Highly recommend this one with friends if the servers are still up. We then have the Uncharted's. I've got 2, 3, 4, and Drake's Fortune. I need to do Brutal for the original trilogy, and I need to do Crushing It for Uncharted 4. We then have Unpacking, which is a little indie game where you unpack a house through various different phases of your life. This was quite a charming little one. I did really enjoy this one. Valiant Hearts, one of my favorite games I played in recent memory. This is a game set in World War One, from a couple different perspectives of the war. It's a side-scrolling little sort of cartoon art style, but it is really, really good. I highly recommend this to pretty much everyone. Vampire was made by the people who made Life is Strange. You play as a vampire doctor. The trophies are very not friendly for what the gameplay is. If you are trying to do everything in one playthrough, you will always be 20 levels under-leveled, which is terrifying. Visage is a brilliant first-person horror game where you're in a spooky house and spooky things are happening. I did a video on the game on this channel. If you were interested, go give that a watch. We then have the Watch Dogs here. I have the DLC left to do in Legion. I have the DLC. I just don't want to play that game a second time. The first 2 games are quite story-driven and good. The third game exists. The environment's is pretty cool. London is pretty well done, but that's about the only compliment I can truly give that game. We then have What Remains of Edith Finch twice, which is one of my favorite walking sims ever. Highly recommend this. As you can see, I smashed it out in under 2 hours for both versions. We then did Whispering Willows. This was Leaving Plus. It was like a detective game, and I did really enjoy this one too. To sort of pick up items to work out what had happened to your father. We then have the Wolfensteins here. I've got the 100% in New Order. I still have to do the challenges in the Old Blood, and I need to level the weapons up in Young Blood. Can't say I'm looking forward to going back and doing either of those 2 feats. I also still need to do Wolfenstein 2, but I'm going to let Dibble from Missing Collectible get that first, of course. I wouldn't want to come in and get that platinum while he's struggling all this time. We then have Wreckfest here, which is one of my favorite racing games. It's a demolition derby that works so well with the haptic feedback on a controller. As your car takes damage, it becomes harder to control. It's really, really cool. WWE 2K22. This is closing at the end of the year, so I'm slowly grinding through these. I love wrestling, so it's fun. I want this done before I do 2023, though. It's just a lot of proving grounds, and that hurts my soul. Witchwood was very average. This was like it was a cute art style. You play as a witch who has to explore environments and essentially just craft things with alchemy and complete mini quests, and that's the entire game. XCOM 2, I adore XCOM 2. This is a tactical turn-based strategy game that I've done literally all the hard stuff in. And for the platinum, pretty much all I have left to do is the tutorial. This is why I frustrate people when they look at my trophy list. I'm just too lazy. I should do the DLC too at some point. Zombie Army 4. I'm the fastest achiever in that game. It's a feat. It's on my resume, of course. It's going to get me far in life. But yeah, fastest achiever. I beat second place by 5 minutes because I'm just cracked like that. Brilliant game. Both Zombie Army games there that you see are fantastic. I love both of them. You can play with up to 4 people, killing waves of zombies as you progress through a bunch of different maps. It's a really cool concept. But that's my list. We got there at the end. It's getting very large now. I'm at 229 platinums, which is kind of incredible. But I would just like to say before we wrap up, I will be bringing Platinumats back a little bit more frequently. I do apologize that the last 2 months have been a bit sporadic. I would like to bring more content to the channel. I've been sort of brainstorming some ideas to bring back, so I'll see you with some of those, and I will see you next week for the next Platinum. If you made it this far, let me know. Do you like Licorice or not? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you've been playing recently. We haven't caught up for like about 3 weeks, so let me know what platinums you have earned in that time. I will see you in the next video. I miss you already. Hugs and kisses. Goodbye.